Yeah. Now, you're a yoga instructor, correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm certified Kundalini yoga teacher. Yes.
So here's another question I had. Well, when I do think that like our emotional patterns show up in the body in some very interesting ways, and I have this theory like you have compensation patterns in the body. So like if somebody's got tight, one muscle's tight, another muscle will be loose. Like it's almost like wherever wherever you have an inferiority complex, you have a superiority complex in the opposite part of life or something.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
that's how I got that idea from the whole muscle thing where you got agonists and antagonists,
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so I was I used to do yoga fairly regularly, and I kind of fell out of it, and I'm trying to get back into it. But what I noticed is that even when I was like super, super buff as of a few years ago, the stuff involving the legs I could always do like surprisingly well. Any yoga pose involving the warrior poses, but the stuff involving the arms, I would always be in pain. And I thought, well, wait a minute. In astrology, the hips, the legs are where you search for the truth. Sagittarius,
yeah.
And the Gemini is where you exchange the truth. And I was like, and I came up with this theory, and maybe you can let me know if I'm crazy or not here. I thought, well, maybe I've never had a problem going out and searching for the truth and at least finding a more accurate version than whatever is currently being propagated to the masses. But exchanging that truth with other people, the arms, Gemini, that's always been a challenge for me, trying to get other people to understand my truth.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's a great way to apply the physical to real life situations. I love that. I love that you're making these connections there. And
would there be things in yoga I could do to alleviate that or kind of balance that out a little more?
Well, I mean, you would probably, not only the arms, I mean, a lot of this is sort of everything surrounding the arms too. So the connection between Taurus and Gemini, the connection between Gemini and Cancer, it's like this, how it is, all of the body is so systemic and there's no real brick walls in the sky. So you really would focus probably on strengthening the areas around it too, and that would also inadvertently strengthen that area. I mean, you really, it's always good to focus on where you already have some power anyway, which would, I guess, be in Cancer for you. What I found through all these case studies was that for Geminis, for example, they would, a lot of the time, they would be getting these arm, shoulder injuries at certain periods of their life of major indecision, or they were in a job that they couldn't stand for too long. So, something would happen that would just put them out, literally, like like an arm, shoulder kind of accident. And then through that, they would realize, oh, wait, I wasn't exchanging the truth in the way that I need to be, and I'm totally living a lie or doing something that's not in line with who I am. So they would come into their own way of exchanging truth, but often, by way of injury or something like that. You know how it is. Sometimes the strongest area is also the most susceptible to.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I knew there was something to all this a few years ago, because an astrologer mentioned that Cancers will always have their bellies will always stick out a little bit. And I noticed even when I had pretty close to six-pack abs, this is years ago, my stomach would still kind of protrude, even though I was really lean. And I could never figure out why until I saw something in medical astrology of like, Cancer's the belly, so Cancer's the belly will always kind of protrude a little bit. And it had something to do with like, some connection there. I was like, okay, there's something to this, because how else would I still have a stomach, even if I was really lean?
And there's such, I don't know if it always has to be that way either. I feel like, the Cancerian part, right, is the emotional body, and we're talking about holding on, and often to the watery realm, emotions. And sometimes there's all of this work recently that's been proven that weight is comparable to holding on to emotions and things like that. So, I think different signs hold on to weight for different reasons. The water signs, Scorpio, Cancer, can be certainly tied to more emotional situations.
So with Cancer men, because Cancer's the breasts, Does this explain why even cancer men like Vin Diesel, Mike Tyson have sizable man titties?
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, you know how Aries tend to have profound shaped heads and skulls, and right, cancer the chest and the breast.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I gotta say, I got that from a book called Astrology Uncut: Street Smart Guide to the Stars, and they had that as an example of man. I think they had a photo of like Vin Diesel looking all buff, but he had, he's got a big chest, so they're like, yeah, even cancer men have sizable men. And I about fell out of the chair laughing at it, but anyway.
That's great.
Yeah. So you got these workshops coming up. Discover your energetic signature. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, this is so much fun. I'm really excited to bring this to San Francisco. So this workshop is sort of is something that I've presented in New York at many different corporations before. Like I go into companies quite often, and they want to do something with team building to be able to work better together and understand each other. So really, what I'm teaching them is about how to use the basics of Sun, Moon, Ascendant in understanding yourself, your partner, your teammates, and a lot of times when I've done this before, people realize like, oh, we're putting that person in the front lines of the company, yet they don't have those, ascendant skills or the Gemini or Libra or anything that really promotes that. And I've seen sometimes the companies often change the roles of people or give them new roles after these things. So it's really about self-understanding. So this workshop primarily has to do with, the arc came here to do on planet Earth, the ascendant, how we can best do it, the operating system, and then the moon, what we will need along the way to nourish us. And it sounds quite simple, but, I love taking a really simple-sounding concept and extrapolating a lot from it. And so the workshop is about self-understanding of what we are here to do and really fostering better relationships and understanding of each other on the planet. So that's what that one is about. And I believe that one is in Corte Madera in Marin, the first one. And then
Corte Madera, I think, is a Gemini with I looked up all the charts of all the cities in Northern California. I think Corte Madera was Gemini with Libra moons.
Oh, really? There's a chart?
Yeah.
For Corte Madera?
Yeah, and they had, I think it was North Node was in Capricorn, and I was like, well, that makes sense because Corte Madera is pretty high, high rent district. So the North Node ultimate destiny was, high property values.
Right.
But a highly social town. Gemini is. Libra. So, free exchange of ideas. I feel like that's the type of. There's a lot. You get cities like that where, you could talk about astrology. Nobody's going to look at you. You're unlikely to have people look at you strange like you would in a lot of other places. And it's true in Sebastopol, out here in Occidental. So yeah, Sebastopol is Gemini Libra too.
That's really interesting. I didn't know. I haven't seen the chart yet for Corte Madera. I'd love to see it. But that's the place, and I was at first surprised, but now I'm not that you say that. That's where I've had the most sign-ups, actually. We're in Corte Madera. I thought it would have been Berkeley or something. But, so who knew astrology would be so popular there? There apparently is a community.
Oh, yeah. Berkeley, I'm not, I did look up the chart once, but I don't remember what it looked like. I think it may have been an Aries, but I'm not sure. I lost, I guess, angry protests.
Right.
Would explain that. If indeed it was an Aries, which I don't remember if it was or not. And then let's see, how to use power of the planets to multiply your success.
Yes. So this is really, of course, that making astrology extremely tangible and accessible to everyone. Like, people hear all this kind of mumbo jumbo, Jupiter, quincunx, Uranus, and second house, and most people are like, what the hell do I do with that? What does that mean? And it can be quite alienating. And I know there's a lot of yogis that are interested in learning astrology, but then, it can be quite intimidated with all of these random numbers and the kind of donut-looking thing on a piece of paper.
Oh, the Egyptian hieroglyphs is what it looks like to the average person.
Exactly. So I'm really I'm going to be speaking in English for the most part with this and showing people how you can use astrology in your daily life. Everything from moon cycles, daily moon sign, the sign that Mars is inhabiting, the sign that Venus is inhabiting. So we're really also going to be looking at the year ahead, and we'll use the year ahead sort of as a template for learning this. So everybody will kind of get their year ahead calendar, but also the tools to learn how to navigate their path on the year and really use astrology in your everyday life. This is one of my favorite workshops to read because people always leave with, oh, I can do this on my own, a sense of empowerment, and it's no longer so intimidating.
Here's the thing, too, with this is we're in a particular time right now, with astrologically, Pluto and Capricorn, but it doesn't. You don't need to know astrology to know this. Most people cannot afford to mess up. They have very, very low room for error when it comes to business stuff and anything involving money. So anything you can do to time to get a little more favorable timing business-wise, like when to start a business, when to incorporate, when to launch a website, I think is extremely useful because you may only have one chance to get it right these days.
I know exactly what you mean, especially with this Uranus-Pluto square. I mean, like, I actually really like today and the next 5 days, like the end of June is really beautiful. July gets a little hairy, and I like November sometimes, but there's a few sweet spots this year, a few Goldilocks areas, And with the whole Uranus-Pluto square for the last 5 years, it's been admittedly really hard to find great wedding dates. So whenever somebody wants a wedding date now, it's like, well, there's a few options through the year.
Do you want a divorce date? We got some divorce dates the last 5 years.
Exactly.
Not to be a pessimist or anything.
Yeah, but I've actually seen a lot of divorces with people that have gotten married, in the last 5 years because, they're getting married under this very hard Uranus-Pluto thing. Not all of them, of course, but
it's a time of unprecedented upheaval, and that's something that there's a lot of idealization around marriage still. So but the times that we're in, everything is getting upheaved, all pretty much everything. So it has been a difficult time for those things.
I mean, on every level, absolutely. Pluto, Uranus, and even though the main aspect is over, it's still consistently being activated throughout the next year, as you know.
Yeah, that just means now the real action starts because now all the stuff has been, the karmic detritus has all been exposed up to the surface, and now we get to really deal with it.
Exactly. Like all of the gunk from the ocean floor is up, and we can sift through it and clean it out now, and that's a good thing. I mean, that's like, okay, at least we're seeing clearly, at least there's a degree of transparency that wasn't present before.
It's kind of like with the country's political, like our situation with how we run the country with like oil and nuclear power and stuff like this. So like the country, this is where it differs, like individuals versus the country. Like individuals still have a lot of influence over their own lives. But like the country, if it was like a person and it wanted to do the right thing and get smart, well, now's a really good time to it is now obvious that we need to get away from fossil fuels and nuclear power and GMOs and all this other stuff. That's all totally obvious. Now, whether the country as an aggregate entity is going to do that or not, it remains to be seen. But whatever the equivalent of nuclear power is in your own life, or whatever the equivalent of GMOs are in your own life, like your emotional GMOs or your physical versions of corruption or emotional versions of corruption, individual, if they're utilizing these things, can figure out how to clear all that out now, because it's probably all been brought up to the surface in the last few years.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like if people have not changed their life dramatically, circumstances have happened that have been sort of probably cataclysmic that have forced us to. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of, I always feel like the square represents the need for a complete turn of direction. I mean, I don't know anybody personally that hasn't gone through major upheaval since 2011, since the Uranus-Pluto square. And, people left their long-time jobs, marriages, all kinds of situations and patterns we've been in our whole life. And, Pluto, it's so big. It's connected to so much in our ancestry and our karma, our history, and what's happened before, almost like, DNA patterns. So it's cutting through such deeply rooted cycles within us. Yeah, and Uranus is kind of like, I mean, I always feel like Pluto could be, if it were to be parts of the body, Pluto reminds me of endocrine and Uranus the nervous system, and they're sort of going through this battle and cutting through and sort of hacking away at a lot of old stuff right now. So physically, it can be quite challenging too, I think, for the nervous system and the endocrine. So our bodies are changing a lot right now on a very real physical level, you know.
I want to buy stock in whoever makes adrenal support supplements, because I think those have probably gone through the I know there was I had to stock up on some adrenal support because I'm a Cancer, right? You know, so we're very attuned, like our little those things that, what are they, the antenna, right, in the crab can sense when the ocean's coming in and when it's coming out. And they had the adrenal support supplement that I used. They ran out of what they used to make it, and I had to find alternatives. And when it was back in stock, I had to stock up. And I don't know, that has something to do with Pluto and the
yeah.
You know, like, so I'm like, well, why are they running out of the raw material for this supplement? Well, everybody's stressed out. People are probably taking more adrenal support. It's not like you're not going to show up to your job and be like, hey, everybody, I just took my adrenal support, you know? And so there's probably more people on it, and probably, I imagine, if it's sourced from like bovine, you know, organic raised cattle in New Zealand or something, who knows? Maybe there's like economic, Pluto and Capricorn economic factors that are that I don't know what's going on in cattle herds down in New Zealand, but I'm assuming that business is being affected by Pluto and Capricorn also. So I don't know where I was going with all that.
Yeah.
And I got to find out what stock to buy for adrenal that is tied into adrenal support.
Absolutely. So many people I've seen over the last 5 years, too, have been having that sort of adrenal fatigue. I mean, we're sourcing energy from a different area. Like, our old sources are cut off. It's like, you can't go in there anymore. You know, you can't, that place, there's a drought. There's nothing there anymore. So, well, then how do I get energy? I mean, the nervous system is just feeling zapped for so many of us now.
Forget Apple stock. I'm going to put my in a Siberian gin, Eleuthero, and ashwagandha stock. Okay.
I'm with you on that one. I mean, with Jupiter and Virgo.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Too.
You're right. Jupiter's going to go in Virgo. Now, last time Jupiter was in Virgo, and I didn't know astrology enough to do this. This is just coincidental, but this is to tie it back to your talk here. I started a website, and the site, based on the URL registration date, that's kind of the birth date for a website. It had Jupiter in Virgo right in my second house, earned income, and it did. As far as it's very rare that websites about the environment or anything to do with politics ever make any money. It did quite well, you know, given the genre that it was in. So if I had known then what I know now, I would have registered a bunch of other URLs on that day that were more generic, like just mattsavinar.com or whatever stuff I could use for anything. So the point of that is you can tap into these cycles for when to start stuff, when to finish stuff. But you can do it on your own. But you know what? You're better off if you're working with somebody like yourself who can help advise, you know, help show you how to do it without. You don't want to only get a little bit of information and then screw your life up even more. You know? Which I'm like the expert at doing that. Just get enough information to screw things up. Yeah.
I think that happens like with everybody's journey in astrology. We just start learning a little bit and then start doing all of these things. And it's like, hold up, I don't know if, you know, you necessarily can do. I mean, I've seen so many people who start with that in the beginning and take on everything. But
this is why
astrology's been vast.
Yeah, I always go to a third-party expert for my own time. I mean, I'll research it, but I always end up going to another person, another practitioner, because it's just too much when you're trying to look at your own stuff. Is you just psychologically, I think your discernment can shut down.
Absolutely. I mean, I go to somebody else too. I go to another astrologer. I don't want to look at my own chart. I see it every day, and it's just, you know, eventually you get a little numb to your own chart.
Such a Virgo thing to say. Such a Virgo. Oh, look, my chart's not perfect. You get some Leo up in there. They'll be like, I have my chart. None do I look at it every day. I have a blown up version of it. It's up on the mirror
framed, right?
Bed.
Yeah.
So well, okay, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Sure. Well, the website is mypathastrology.com, and it's really about finding your path in life. It's MYPATH, astrology.com. And if people would like to come to my workshops over the next few days about using astrology and the power of planets to multiply your success, true navigational tools, these are in San Francisco areas for the 27th of June and the 28th. And you can just go to mypathastrology.com/workshop and find everything there. And they're both workshops, as you mentioned, the one earlier, Discover Your Energetic Signature, and also Astrology in Action, how to use the power of planets to multiply your success. So those are the two that I will be featuring in the Bay Area.
Great. All right. Well, it was very nice having you on, Miss Gordon.
Type what we can